Welcome, Representative Appleton. It's been a while since you've been able to do one of these. It's been a very busy session. Speaking of busy, I understand you had two of the most successful in terms of attendance town halls that the 23rd District has seen in quite a while.
Absolutely. In Bremerton, we had 61 people, and in Paulsbo, we had 121 people. We just have never seen turnouts, and I think that says a lot for our constituents, that they're really concerned about this budget and the people who are going to be impacted by it.
Without trying to recreate those town halls, can you talk about some of the things that seem to have been on quite a few people's minds?
Well, the budget, of course, was on people's minds, having to do mostly with health care and with education. K through 12 was a big topic of conversation. And, of course, there are those of us who believe in delinking the WASL from graduation requirements and just use it as a guidance and go to end-of-course exams and the SATs, because colleges don't use the WASL. They don't even look at them. And it costs us, which is really incredible, it costs us about $23 million a year just for retakes and having it corrected. So I've always been a proponent. I don't like high-stakes exams anyway. I think the SATs are sufficient, but if we did it as a guidance tool for teachers to see where kids were failing, that would be one thing. And then have end-of-course exams to see if they've learned the subject matter. Human services, healthcare, I think people were very supportive of having safety nets. That's Disability Lifeline and Basic Health Plan, the community clinics, because without those, you know, people will be without places to stay, without places to get health care. Part of it is also Francis Hatton Morgan, which is a residential habilitation center. That's why you always hear people say RHC. We have 5 of them, and the governor has suggested that 2 be closed. One is Francis Hatton Morgan, and the other is Yakima Valley School. Francis Hatton Morgan has been in Bremerton for as long as I can remember. It's in a residential neighborhood. It really is a good neighbor. And the thing that makes it so special is that the children, and some of them are our ages, but there'll always be children, have profound autism and behavioral anomalies. They're usually, they come to Francis Hatton Morgan because they're uncontrollable. And in that wonderful atmosphere that the staff has, they know how to calm them. They know that they can even take them out to things around the city and outings and that. And the families are depending upon Francis Hatton Morgan. The thought that it or any of the other RHCs would close gives them a lot of anxiety and a lot of apprehension. So today I've introduced a bill that will ask DSHS to look at the feasibility of alternatives rather than closing the RHCs. There are 2 plants that are forming right now. One would be to get a waiver from the Centers for Medical Services and CMS and be allowed to change them, Francis Hatton Morgan and the others who have cottages, into SOLAs, state-operated living arrangements. And that way, we could keep the RHC open and have the same employees that these children have had all their lives, mostly. And so it would, you know, perpetuate itself. The other idea is to look at nonprofit organizations that might be willing to take over the running of the RHCs. So we're getting a little heartened here where we were really down in the mouth. There are 162 employees in Francis Hatton Morgan, and most of them live in Bremerton. So it would really be a devastating impact to Bremerton if we closed Francis Hatton Morgan, and to the families, and most of all to the children.
You mentioned that just a few minutes ago the Economic Forecast Council came out with its quarterly prediction. What is the trend that you're seeing in terms of where cuts are going to be made?
70% of the budget is mandated by either the Constitution, the federal government, and areas like that, so they can't be cut, like K through 12, and some of the Medicaid, Medicare options. But when you really come down to it, the most money is in human services because, especially in a recession as great as this one was, people need more help because a lot of them have lost their jobs, lost their homes, and that's what our safety nets are for. So my angst is that we cut more from there. We cut more from Disability Lifeline. We cut from the basic health plan. We cut children, you know, from Apple Health. We're going to cut ECAP, Head Start, all of these things that actually help to make people more productive.
Totally changing gears here.
Okay.
What's going on with the ferries?
Well, we have a ferry caucus that's made up of all the legislators in the 9 counties that are on Puget Sound and that have ferries in their district. Of course, in our district, we have the most because we have Kingston, Bainbridge, Bremerton, and then not in my district, South Worth. We move 16 million people a year in commuting. We think that there's a plan where it will not impact the ridership too much. It's going to impact everybody, but it won't be that 10% that the governor was talking about. And we also think that we have a plan where we won't reduce service except minimally. And Bremerton would be protected, which I think is really important because they're redeveloping. And if we lost service even at night, we would lose people from coming over and redeveloping. I think that in the next week, we're going to know just exactly what we're going to do. But I'm a little more heartened now about the ferries than I was a month ago. So I think we're going to do it. It won't be perfect, and it won't be the best that we can do because we have to figure out long-term how we can operate the ferries, but number 2, have capital so that we can build another 144. And right now, we can't do that.
Is there still time for ordinary citizens to have an impact on what goes on with these budget decisions that you're talking about and with other legislation that the legislature has to act on by 105 days after the session started?
Well, absolutely, because the budget will probably come out Monday or Tuesday, maybe even Wednesday, and then there'll be hearings on the budget. So people should be looking at Wednesday or Thursday for public hearings in both the Senate and the House. And then people testify, say what's wrong, what can we amend to make it a little better? What things can we do without? What things can we do with? And as far as legislation, we are now coming to cutoff. Next Friday, the 25th of March, is cutoff from houses of the opposite, where we had cutoff before with houses of origin. Now we're coming to the last cutoff as far as policy committees. So it's really important if people have a problem with a bill that they get in touch with us now before we end up on the floor.
Let's say someone agrees with you on something. It may be more valuable for them to contact the other 146 members of the legislature.
Absolutely, by email. Go through their email that goes straight to them, which is the first name dot the last name at leg.wa.gov. And that way it goes straight to them. There's always a process that people can be involved in. This is the people's house, and we're trying to do the people's work. The other thing I want to say just before closing is that I have not done videos for a while. My mother passed away in February, and so I had to leave the legislature for a little while to go take care of issues down in Florida. But I'm back, and we're going to take care of this. And if you have any questions, please contact me, my office. I'm Sherry Appleton, representative for the 23rd Legislative District, and thank you.